There are no unrealistic goals, only unrealistic time frames. What does that mean? I think that means we can achieve just about anything we truly want to achieve given a reasonable time frame. Now, you can't be ludicrous about it, but I like the thought line. It helps us look at what we can make happen. Helps us focus on the excitement of the future. Well, I got to tell you, when I heard him say that, I got excited. And I got to confess to you, I didn't even hear the next 7 or 8 minutes of his speech because my imagination was running rampant. He said, no unrealistic goals, only unrealistic time frames. I got to tell you, I started mentally picturing myself in a really exciting mode. I mentioned to you my interest in aviation. I started thinking, here I am on the speaking circuit, and I'm doing close to 100 meetings a year, primarily at the mercy of the airlines. How many of you are aware that is not always a perfect program? Yeah. And in fact, I heard a line the other day. Somebody said that Delta Airlines has a new slogan in their Atlanta hub. Have you heard about it? We're not happy till you're not happy. Well, you know, we're going to talk about service a little bit too. But anyway, I started thinking, no unrealistic goals, only unrealistic time frames. That means that someday I could just have my own personal airplane. Who knows, maybe someday my own jet. Oh, friends, I got excited. I leaned back in my chair. I closed my eyes a little tighter. I mentally pictured myself finishing up an appearance in one city, going out to the airport, climbing into my own little jet, taxi out onto the runway, add power down the runway, climb out off into the sunset to the next city. Oh, friends, it's like it was happening. I was pumped. This experience took place in my life years ago. But I want you to know that I've never taken my eye off the ball. I've continued to tweak and fine-tune that goal, that vision, that game plan, if you will. I will further tell you, the First Command professionals, you've got a speaker on your stage in Orlando today who, as a result of that diligent effort and focus, you got a speaker up here today who, before the sun goes down on December 31st of this year, who's not going to have a jet. Have y'all priced one of those dudes lately? Well, I got to tell you, I can't handle it. Certainly not right now. I got 4 kids, 2 still in college. I'm suffering from maltuition. Anyone here similarly afflicted? Yeah, many of you know what I'm talking about, right? But there's nobody here or anywhere else who can say that if I want one badly enough, I couldn't have one in 2 years or 5 years or 8 years or sometime. There are no unrealistic goals, only unrealistic time frames. What would you try in your life, in your career, if you knew you could not fail? What would you attempt? I think we've all got to stretch our thinking. We've got to enhance our perspective from time to time. We've got to make sure that we're getting excited about what can be done. We've got to be positively psyching ourselves on a daily basis with great credibility, with great believability, going out into a challenging and competitive marketplace. I mentioned the 4 kids. They're all girls, all but 3 of them. How you doing on that line, Chris? You want me to slow down, or are you hanging in there? Are you hanging in there? Okay, he got it. Okay. Anyway, Robin's the only girl in the clan. I came home from a trip a while back, and she met me at the back door. She's all excited. She was a junior in high school at the time. She said, Dad, I just found a college up in New England. You don't even need your high school diploma to get in. I thought, where is she going with this? She said, yeah, Dad, you passed the entrance exam. You are in there. She said, we both know I can probably pass the entrance exam. How about it? I want to skip my senior year of high school, go to college a year early. What do you say? I said, Robin, this is a big decision. Slow down. She didn't want to slow down. She wanted to pack. She was excited. You know, it wasn't 48 hours later, we'd heard that our oldest son at the University of Texas in Austin had just changed his major. Going to now take him, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years to get out instead of the traditional 4. And I bet you know where I'm going with this story, don't you? Despite what we thought was good planning, looking now like a possibility of 4 in college simultaneously. Well, I proceeded to freak out. I knew my wife was back there in the den. I went back there and said, do you realize what we're on the threshold of possibly having happen here? I laid it all out. I said, 4 in college at once. What are we going to do? She said, I don't know about you, but I'm going back to college. Well, you get some good speech material from the family environment. Chris, did you have parents? How about the rest of you? Most of you have parents? Yeah. You know, interestingly enough, the parent-child relationship is one that becomes problematical from time to time. How many of you remember when you were a teenager how dumb your parents were? Me too. How many of you have some kids today who think that you are a little less than sharp? Anybody at all? We might as well admit it, it's a real world, right? But I got another question for you. If you had a little stress with your parents back in those days, and you got a little stress with your kids today, why is it that your kids and your parents get along great? Easy to explain. The reason grandparents and grandchildren get along so well is because they share a common enemy. You guys are a great audience, you know that. I could have used y'all when I spoke in the South Bronx one time. Anybody here ever been to the South Bronx? They say if you ever want a friend in the South Bronx, you better take one with you when you go. I read the other day where two men got mugged while robbing a liquor store in the South Bronx. The high-performance pros are the men and the women who internalize motivation. Now, a lot of people think motivation is a tired topic. I submit to you it's more important than it's ever been in the arena of professional selling. It means work ethic. It means making the number of calls, being good when we get there, having a desire for personal excellence, a desire to make a contribution. I got on an airliner a while back to take a trip and sat down next to this individual, and we were having a pretty good visit, and after a few minutes we introduced ourselves to each other, and I said, Don Hutson. We shook hands. He said, Don Hutson, he said, you that motivational speaker? Well, I'll be frank with you, I probably prefer the title professional speaker, business trainer, but I didn't want to cause a debate. I just met the guy. I thought, just talk to him, Don. Listen, you might learn something. So I just said, yeah, that's me. Well, it seems he wanted to have a debate anyway. He said, I thought that might have been you when I saw you get on the airliner, Don Hutson. I was in one of your audiences about 15 years ago. He said, I was in sales then. He said, I'm in management now. And let me tell you what I've been learning. He said, you're probably not going to like it very much. What I've been learning, Don, is motivation doesn't last. I said, a bath doesn't either, but it's a good idea to take one once in a while. He said, I hadn't thought about it like that. So, does motivation prove to be a temporary thing? I look at it like this. If we do a good job of internalizing motivation, it can be an enormous payoff for us. Go to A, best definition I've ever heard of motivation. It's the pull of anticipation and the push of discipline. Wow, great definition. You see, you come to the First Command meeting in Orlando, you hear something from myself or another of the speakers, you get all excited, you get all fired up, and all of a sudden you realize, I'm going to do some things differently now. And you make some decisions to internalize some new skills and to do some things differently. That's not an emotion, that's a skill. And that's the power of what motivation can mean.